The travel. In the books that we read and in the film that we saw, there are principally three types of travel. The first type is the adventure travel. We can find it in around the world in 80 days and in the secret garden. In the secret garden, it isn't the principal types. The adventure travel is a real travel in the real world. So in around the world in 80 days is present because they do a real travel in the real world. The second types is the travel to places that seem magical but that are real. We can find it in the secret garden. Third types of travel is the imaginary or fantasy travel. We can find it in Narnia. In these types, the travel is in a fantasy world. This book is Around the World in 80 Days. The author is Jules Verne and it was published in 1864. The plot. Mr. Fogg, after having made a bet that is to be able to go around the world in 80 days, leaves for the journey with Mr. Passepartout. My personal opinion, I like this book because the travel is the main theme and tells all its aspects. What can we learn from this travel? From this travel we learn that the important thing is not the destination but the journey. Every travel changes you because you meet cultures, tradition and new people and you feel many emotions. For example, in the book they meet a lot of cultures like Indian cultures and they meet a lot of people like the detective and Mrs. Aoda. And there will always be unforeseen events, but that doesn't mean that they must necessarily be negative. They could lead to something positive. For example, in the book, when in India the train breaks and they are forced to go into the jungle with an elephant, they meet and save Mrs. Howda. The Secret Garden. The author is Francis Ogden Burnett. It was published in 1911. The plot: Mary, a spoiled English girl who lives in India after the death of her parents, goes to live in England by her uncle. Left alone for the house, goes to explore the house and finds a secret garden. My personal opinion: I don't like this book because the story is trivial and it highlights much more the emotion than the theme of the travel, which is not very pleasant. What can we learn from this travel? From this travel we learn that to travel you don't have to go far. For example, in the book the secret garden is very near to the house. It is in the house. A place based on who sees it can arouse opposing emotion. For example, in the book, Mary loved the garden, the secret garden, and the aunt hated the garden. And sometimes you feel more at home in newly discovered places than in a places where you have lived for years. For example, in the book, Mary felt more comfortable in the garden than in the Indian house. Narnia: The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Director Andrew Adamson, year 2005. The plot: four boys, before the start of World War II, escape to the center of England at the home of a professor and exploring the house find a wardrobe that takes them into a fantasy world. My personal opinion: this film has a very nice plot and story, but the quality of the video and the graphics of the animation and the costumers is very bad, so I don't like this film. What can we learn from this travel? From this travel we learn that not necessarily you must travel in reality. Sometimes you can travel with your imagination. For example, in the film, they are very bored, so they travel with their imagination and they do some games. Then we can learn that to face some good travels, you must have the courage to take them even if they seem risky. For example, in the film, if they hadn't the courage to go in Narnia, they would not have seen this great adventure. And sometimes you feel more comfortable with the people you have just met than with the people you have known for a long time. And we can see it both in Narnia and in the Secret Garden.